friends and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be sewing our block number 6 from our designer mystery block of the month from Fat Water Shop. And so this is our block for this month and is designed by Zen Chic. Her name is Bridget. I don't want to mess up her last name. She is more of a modern designer. She tends to have fabric that are more chic, very clean, without a lot of flowers. So if you are more of a modern quilter, she is your girl. So with that being said, let's dive in and start sewing our block for this month. So these are all our pieces that we're going to need for this block. And this is the square in a square that we're going to make. This is our very first step that we're going to make. So for the first part here, we're going to sew on square in a square. And I've already sewn this part and sewn this part. So now I sewn the last part. What you would do is fold it over to make sure that it does fold on top of each other. And then I will cut. Typically this is going to be overlapping. I would just trim it down. So I'm going to cut the part off now. I'm just going to take a scissors and I'm just going to cut like that. So I'm just going to cut. I'm not going to save this part because there's no point. It's so little. And I would just press with my finger first and then I'll iron it. So let me just iron real quick. So this is the first part that we need to make and it's already completed. So what I'm going to do now is continue on and sewing the rest of the parts. So what we're going to do is take this pretty green and kind of like a paisley kind of fabric. We're going to make 5 flying geeses. So we're going to take our square and I'm just going to chain piece this part and just go for it. These are all the 5 flying geese needed for this this part, and they are right here all completed. So what I'm going to do is put them to the side right there. So for our next step, we're going to take our 2 rectangle and we are going to take our background and we're going to sew onto the corner going from here to here on this part, and we're going to sew onto this part from here to here on the second part. So here they are right here. I've completed making both of them and this is what they are looking like. So the next thing we are doing is taking that square in a square that we made earlier. So what we're going to do now is bring our background piece and we're going to sew onto the side like that. Okay, so let me do that. Here's a square and a square, and here are the 2 sides already sewn on. So I'm going to just move it over like that. Our next step is to take our 2 of our flying geese, put it upside down like this, right? And then we're going to sew this together. So I'm going to do that right now. So that's done. I'm just going to finger press it open and it's going to be upside down like that. So what I'm going to do is take our 2 square pieces. I'm going to sew it onto the sides. I think this is one of the easiest block to make of all so far. It's just putting the pieces together. It's rather easy. For this part, I'm going to press to the side away from my seam. And so this is what it's looking like right now. The next thing we are doing is taking our flying geese, all 3 of them that are left. We're going to just sew all 3 of them together like this. So this is all 3 right here. We're just going to sew all 3 together and I'm just going to go just like that. Like I said, this block is rather easy. The step and the pattern are so clear and so like beginner friendly. You can't mess up. These are the 3 flying geese all sewn together, completed. So the next thing we're doing is just putting this puzzle together and just kind of putting it like this. And we're going to sew it. So for this next step, I don't think I need to pin really, because look how they're matching up perfectly. I'm just going to hold on to it and then just sew just like that. So this is what this is looking like, all completed. So what we're going to do now is take our 2 side pieces and we're going to sew it on. So now all my pieces are all sewn, and all we're doing now, we're going to just start putting our block together. And like I said, this block is it's relatively easy to sew. So there you go. So now what I'm going to do is just assemble and sew, and that's it. And because these pieces that I've sewn are a little, they look a little crooked. And so what I'm going to do is just pin to make sure that they are straight, and then I'll trim it at the end so that way it is really straight before I go on. Okay, so sometimes when you're sewing a lot of like flying geese and pieces, your pieces tend to want to get crooked sometimes, and I don't typically sew like this. I think it's because I'm tired. I don't know. So, and sometimes you have days like that. You have days where you're sewing, it looks right, but it's just not your best. And at the end of the day, by the time you finish sewing it, it's gonna be all right. Nobody's gonna know that it was crooked. By the time you press it and iron and do all the likes, it'll be okay. So for this, I think I'm just going to sew from here because this is where my flying geese are. That way I don't chop the end of it off. If you're not sewing the finishing component, this is what your block is going to look like at this point. But for me, since I purchased the fabrics for the finishing component, I'm going to go on ahead and sew on the finishing part for this block. So that way I will be done once and for all. So this is what the block is looking like so far. I've put the side on. So now what I'm going to do is sew on the background to the right and the background to the left. So this is what our block is going to look like when it's all done. So let's go on ahead and continue, right? Here's my block all completed. This is block number 6. This is it all done. I just wanted to point out that this block looks a little bit like our Peaceful Basket Sew Along that we're sewing with the block of the month from our Sew Sampler box, because it looks like a little basket, and even though this is a little bit more modern version of it, that's what it reminded me of. Overall, I think this block came out very pretty, even though earlier on this section right here looked a little bit wonky, but by the time it's sewn on and pressed, you couldn't even tell that it looked wonky at the beginning. This is just an example of, you know, if you're sewing a block and it looks a little funny during the process, just go with it. It's gonna be okay. At the end of the day, it looked fine, as you can see. With that being said, my friends, this is block number 6 in the book, all done right here for you. I have gone step by step with this block so you guys can have a better understanding if you are a beginner sewer. This is all I have for you today. I hope you are having a great day, and don't forget to subscribe down below, and I would love to see you in my next video.